This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
You're listening to the 6 o'clock news podcast from BBC Radio 4.
BBC News at 6 o'clock. This is Alan Smith. Good evening. In its starkest warning about the ecological damage caused by human activity, the UN has said 1 million species could be pushed into extinction in the coming years. The Duchess of Sussex has given birth to a baby boy, the 7th in line to the throne. Announcing the news this afternoon, Prince Harry said it had been the most amazing experience.
I'm so incredibly proud of my wife. As every father and parent would ever say, you know, your baby is absolutely amazing, but this little thing is absolutely to die for, so I'm just over the moon.
BBC News understands that the government is spending tens of millions of pounds on new contracts for Brexit consultants. A man suspected of carrying out a series of abductions and rapes in London, Manchester and Cheshire has been captured by police. Also tonight, fresh questions about Theresa May's departure, and the head of UKIP prepares for a leadership challenge. United Nations scientists have published the most comprehensive and damning research ever about the harm humanity is doing to nature. The Global Assessment of Diversity, unveiled in Paris, warns that up to 1 million species of plants and animals face extinction. It blames the demands of an expanding human population and calls for an end to what it says are harmful subsidies for farming and fossil fuels. The French Environment Minister François de Rugy, who was meeting his G7 counterparts this afternoon, said they would agree on the best ways to promote the issue of biodiversity on the international stage. Our climate correspondent Matt McGrath was at the launch in the French capital.
There was strong applause from scientists here in Paris as this key report on the state of nature was presented. But after 3 years of work, the reception was more about relief than joy, because the contents of this stark global assessment were nothing to celebrate. 3/4 of the land on our planet now bears the deep physical scars from decades of intense human activity. Vast tracts of forest have been cleared for farming as demand for meat from a growing and wealthier population has soared. On the seas, it's a similar story, with industrial fleets trawling huge quantities of fish. Across Africa and Asia, wildlife is hunted for food and fortune as never before. Professor Sandra Diaz from Argentina is a co-chair of the report. She says these threats are a recipe for the destruction of the world as we know it.
We have this deep interweaving with the fabric of life. So if life on Earth is in trouble, we are on trouble. Our future is at stake. There's really no human future without a future for the fabric of life that sustains us.
As with climate change, those in the richer parts of the world are the ones who have done most to drive this ecological crisis. But, according to the report's lead author, Professor Unai Pascual, just as with rising temperatures, it will be people in the poorer parts who will most keenly feel the loss of species.
The human species possibly will continue to exist, but the conflicts among ourselves, among humans, is possibly going to increase over the control of even more scarce resources.
But the report is not without hope. It says that we can turn the tide on this potential disaster by deep and unprecedented change. That will require an end to subsidies for farming and fossil fuels, and it will need a rapid expansion of protected areas. Beyond that, though, it will require changes in outlook by each and every one of us. We will have to redefine what a successful life looks like. The era of consumption without consequence is ending rapidly.
The report calls for people to rethink fundamentally how they consume resources, to use less plastic, generate less waste and buy fewer luxury goods, as well as use less energy in general. Our science editor David Schuckman has this assessment of how likely it is that such changes will take place.
The scale of our impact on the natural world should come as no surprise. Over the years, there have been plenty of warnings about threats to biodiversity. But the language of this report is unusually stark. And, as one of the authors put it, this is not just about losing nice species, It's about our life support system. In our technological age, the idea of us being dependent on nature is not easy to grasp. But one example is in Kenya, where a rainforest is vital to the national economy. It's the source of several rivers, so helps to generate hydroelectricity. And its waters also irrigate tea plantations and sustain nature reserves that bring in valuable tourism. The forest has a value far beyond its trees. But as in so many parts of the world, a growing population is putting this corner of nature under pressure. The only option, according to the report, is what's called transformative change, shifting away from the pursuit of economic growth and unrestrained consumption. But these goals are easier to suggest than to deliver. And bear in mind that the first international discussions of biodiversity were more than 30 years ago. And since then, the losses have accelerated.
The US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has warned Russia and China about their aspirations and behaviour in the Arctic. He was speaking at a meeting in Finland of the Arctic Council, a forum for 8 states with interests in the region. Tensions have been growing over how to deal with the effect global warming is having on the Arctic and the jurisdiction of its mineral resources. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are celebrating after becoming the parents of a baby boy. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said the child was born just before 5:30 this morning and weighed 7 pounds 3 ounces. Giving his reaction, Prince Harry said both Meghan and the baby were doing incredibly well. The boy is 7th in line to the throne and the Queen's 8th great-grandchild. His name is expected to be announced later this week. As a sign of the interest in the birth, the couple's Instagram post announcing the arrival of the baby has already received more than 1.5 million likes. From Windsor, here's our royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond.
It's a boy, exclaimed the Duke and Duchess's social media account. It had been, for many, a rather nerve-wracking wait. Around a week after what was thought to be her due date, the Duchess went into labour in the early hours of this morning and not long after, at just before 5:30, gave birth to a baby boy. Its weight 7 pounds 3 ounces. Both mother and child are healthy and well. And the Sussexes thanked members of the public for their excitement and support at what they called this very special time. A few hours after the birth, Harry came out to say a first few words. He was smiling and chuckling, even swaying a little with pleasure.
I haven't been at many births. This is definitely my first birth. But it was amazing, absolutely incredible. And as I said, I'm so incredibly proud of my wife. And as every father and parent would ever say, you know, your baby is absolutely amazing, but this little thing is absolutely to die for. So I'm just over the moon.
The streets around Windsor Castle are thick with tourists today, including some of the regular characters who enjoy a royal birth. Amongst visitors, a sense of celebration.
It's really exciting. I think we've been waiting and we know she was overdue, so I was feeling a bit bad for her actually that she was so overdue, but I'm really excited to hear the news today.
We were going around the castle, through the state apartments, the news came through of the birth of the baby boy. And I think any birth announcement is exciting and it's a really great one to have and it brings the country together, especially on a cold bank holiday. What a great day.
Members of the royal family have been informed, as have the brother and sisters of the late Diana, Princess of Wales. The Duchess's mother, Doria Ragland, is at Windsor and was said to be overjoyed. Prince Harry spoke of his pride and pleasure.
How any woman does what they do is beyond comprehension, but we're both absolutely thrilled and so grateful to all the love and support for everybody out there, from everybody out there. It's been amazing, so we just wanted to share this with everybody.
As to a name, Harry said that the couple had been talking about it, but they had yet to decide.